From the early 20th century, this enclave emerged as a sanctuary for African Americans fleeing the harsh realities of the Great Migration, seeking new opportunities and a better life. Here, in Bronzeville, amidst the bustling streets, they carved out a space where culture, enterprise, and spirit flourished.
Here in Bronzeville, at one time we had 5 theaters.
Uh-huh.
It was because downtown you couldn't go and you had to sit in the balcony.
In the balcony?
Yeah, you couldn't sit just anywhere in the theaters downtown. That's why the theaters in the Bronzeville area was so important.
There was a symbiotic relationship between the musicians and the entrepreneurs. And Mrs. Garrett made it very clear to us that the music, like I said, soothed the soul and got people, when they came home or the weekend, they went to a club. There were a lot of clubs on Long Street and Mount Vernon.
You had 5 theaters, and 2 of them were with lodges that had lodge functions in those buildings in addition to theaters. You had the Pythian, you had the Ogden, which became the Lincoln, you had the Dunbar Theater, you had the Empress Theater across from what was the Ogden, is now the Lincoln, and you had the Cameo on Mount Vernon near 20th. So you had 5 theaters within a 1-mile radius.
There were 3 things that were very critical in the downfall. And the first one was Brown versus the Board of Education, made 1954. What that did was desegregation. People said, well, how is that going to impact Brownsville? Well, here's what it did. And we heard this from Mrs. Monroe and Mrs. Garrett. These are older people who now passed on, who were here, who helped build Brownsville. Said that what happened, when that happened, African Americans felt, well, okay, I don't have to spend my money at the local corner store. I can go over here, because it opened the door economically for African Americans to go into white neighborhoods and buy goods, because they said it was cheaper, or whatever the case may be. But what they didn't realize, by taking that resource from out of the local store, now the store owner in your neighborhood doesn't have the extra money to hire your grandson to deliver your groceries. And that was the beginning. So that's the first one. So we like to say that if Bronzeville at the time, the battleship in the war was the command center. So Brownsville is the battleship. Okay. So as it's going, Brown versus the Board of Education, on the port side, the left side was the decision. Now the starboard side, which is the right side now, gets hit with another torpedo. And that was in 1959, was the Highways Act. But they duped people out of a lot of properties. So then when the Highways Act came in, it cut the neighborhood right there with 71 in. So that was the second. So now Brownsville being Brownsville, it was still floating. It's the battleship. They cut off, put doors in there, and it still functioned. They lost people here. But here's what was the coup de grace that put the end to it. It was a torpedo that hit the rudder. And once you hit the rudder of a ship, you can't go anywhere but in a circle. If the engine is going, you can't go anywhere. And that was urban renewal.
One of the sad spots now is the fact that there is no communication. There really isn't a consistent program, let me say it that way, because every now and then you'll see the Communicator, or you'll see Ray Miller's paper, which I enjoy reading, but there isn't a consistent source that the community needs to thrive on, you know.
We have to work on our school system, because our school system is at a challenging state today. And what we have to do is raise that so people will come here with children. People will come here for the housing stock and the location and anything else that we have to offer, but they won't, when the children get of age, they'll move because they want a better school system. So we have to improve the school system and tap into that rich history of East High School and every Champion and Trevitt. So we have to raise the school system. We also have to build for all economic levels. This neighborhood is strong, as with the name, that we have Section 8 residents living here and we have people with 8 figures. It doesn't matter. We want them to be able to move up and into the neighborhood, not up and out.